Path of Exile 2 is poised to be the hardest ARPG ever released, and that difficulty starts right from level 1. In this video, I'm going to try to give you guys a few tips that will help you get over some of the walls you're going to encounter in the first couple of acts of the game, and this hopefully will help you get through the boss fights and some more challenging content early on. And you know, maybe you don't need to necessarily implement this advice right away, but when you hit that first wall, you'll be glad that you watched the video. So the first thing you guys need to know is that the early game basic attack is very powerful. So every weapon in the game gives you a basic skill, and honestly, putting some support gems onto that basic skill will make your life, specifically with bossing, way better. And again, it really depends on what class you're playing, but with something like the mercenary, you're way better off investing into the basic skill early game for bossing and then using skills like grenade or shotgun for AoE farming. And it's a similar thing with the warrior, where the warrior's basic attack is actually the best ability for killing bosses for quite a while. So keep in mind that, you know, utilize your basic attack. Don't feel like you have to use skills specifically for bossing. Second piece of advice is, so basically with items that you get, you can either sell them or you can disenchant them. Disenchanting them gives you currency shards, but the problem is you have to disenchant 10 items to get 1 currency, right? Which is pretty good later on, but early game, you're not going to be getting like 10 rares through Act 1, and it's even hard to get like 10 blues in the very early game. But getting together like 1,500 gold or 2,000 gold to get a really solid rare weapon is very easy if you sell the items that you get. So my advice to you is during the first act and second act, and maybe towards the third act, you'll have to kind of play it out from there. But I definitely suggest that you sell gear instead of disenchanting it. Later on, disenchanting becomes a lot better, but selling gear and trying to buy weapons can radically change your early game experience. And even beyond weapons, like if you have a great weapon, just buying like a yellow chest piece with some resistances or something will make your life so much better in the early game. Now, the next tip is, you know, obviously, when you're in a new game, you're going to be seeing all these new skills and you're going to be constantly excited and wanting to try stuff out, and you should try stuff out and try out all these new skills and everything. But I will warn you, the later into the game you are when you're trying out new stuff, the more that you're going to basically put your character behind. So it's like early game, if you try new stuff, it's not really going to affect your character, but when you get to like Act 2, Act 3, and then when you get into cruel difficulty, when you're trying out new things, you're going to radically reduce the power level of the character whenever you shift. You can just out farm this if you need to. So like, you know, you're going to be behind on support gems, let's say. Maybe you don't have enough gold to fully fix your passive tree. Maybe you don't have the perfect weapon for what you're respecing into, but you can out farm all that stuff. Just be aware that if you're respecing a lot, especially after Act 1, this is going to radically reduce your character's power, and you're going to have to farm it out to get back to where you were. Now, my fourth tip is to use your currency items. I know in like POE1, like you'll use some currency items while leveling, but you'll save some more valuable ones. But I would suggest in POE2, just send it on your currency items. The reason for this is because the content is very difficult. And the second you hit a wall, rather than like trying to grind it out or getting a few levels or whatever, just spend your currency items. You're going to get a lot more currency while doing the campaign in POE1, and you shouldn't feel bad about using currency on early game items. It can make your life so much better. Just getting like, you know, if you get a great item base for like a weapon and you upgrade it to a magic item, and then you add another affix and you upgrade it to a rare, you're going to get so much power from this. So definitely make sure you're spending your currency. Boss fights in POE2 are going to be the main bottleneck of your character, but luckily there's a very simple thing that you can do that'll make them a lot easier, which is to pay attention to what type of damage they're doing and go and get resistances for that element. The boss mechanics in this game are very deliberately designed, so it's easy to tell what type of damage is coming out. And you have a bunch of different systems for getting resistances to deal with it. You have the charm system, which you can buy charms or you can get them as drops or whatever, but they'll give you specific resistances. You have rings that give specific resistances, and you also have the runes that you can put into armor that also have specific resistances. My advice to you is to generally try to keep different resistance rings and your different runes and stuff, so that if you get stuck on a specific boss later in the game, like for example, if you get stuck on a boss that does a lot of fire damage, you can just toss on a couple of fire res rings and the boss will go from being incredibly difficult to almost trivial. Resistances are ridiculously good at making boss fights easier. And my last tip is to not just have fun, which is what a lot of people say. Okay, this is an optimization channel. My last tip is, if you find yourself being stuck on a boss, don't feel bad about just going and farming a bit. Honestly, just clearing the map once or twice is going to give you so much character power, because everything in this game is deliberately designed, including map layouts. So the developers intentionally put a bunch of random items and special areas on every single map that when you get to them will actually massively improve your character power. There's all kinds of things that you can find. You can shop, you know, spend your currency items. Just figure out ways to make your character powerful. Don't bang your head against the wall or get too frustrated. Grind it out and get through the boss. So that's it for today's video. I hope this was helpful for you guys. Let me know if it will be tomorrow. And yeah, I'll see you in the next video. Peace out, everybody.